Hey, everybody. It's Coach Maggie answering another Ask Coach Maggie. This question comes from Montana, a lovely badass mama that I know. And she asks, how the hell do you prioritize fitness, especially with young kids? And I've been there. And I got lots of ideas. So let's just get right to it because this is really important. And a lot of the things that I'm going to share are not just if you have young kids. It's if you have anything. If you have a Prairie who asked this question, not only does she have young kids, she runs more than one business and she's incredibly active in her community. So and keeping relationships alive. So kudos there. And moving beyond that to how do you prioritize fitness? The number one thing that I want to share, which goes across the board, young kids or not, is know why you want to add fitness. What's the point of adding this fitness to your life? How do you prioritize fitness? Number one, you know what you're doing it for, why you want it, and what it's going to bring into your life that's going to add to the things you're already doing, the things you already love, the things that are bringing you joy. So that kind of goes to the why of fitness. And you heard me talk about before how I always want what I'm doing, how I'm eating, how I'm moving, and the things that are coming into my mind and the things that I am thinking, reading, enjoying, communicating with to be adding vitality to my life. If it's not, then it has to be looked at. So after that, we want to, number one, especially if you have young kids, are you even getting enough sleep? I don't want to add anything to anybody, particularly if we're talking about exercise routine. You notice I always put that in quotes. I do not want to add anything extra to anybody's life if they are not getting enough sleep. It is your number one recovery. It is so incredibly important to every kind of life process that's happening physiologically, psychologically. We have to be getting enough rest. That is number one. Then 1B, number one, are you getting enough sleep? Do you have the resources to even begin to start thinking about the process of fitness? So if I want you to know why you're adding fitness, I don't even want you to get to why are you adding fitness if you don't even have the resources to answer that question. Now, if you're confused about that, here's my example. When I wanted to lose weight, that was like the main thing for me. My body had changed so much. I wanted to lose weight, but I was in chronic pain. And that one fact that I couldn't even walk, that I couldn't chase after my 18-month-old without being in horrific, sharp shooting, stabbing pain with every step, kept me from accessing any other thought in my mind of how would I even go about changing my life that I have right now so that I can lose any weight. So for me, what's it that look like? I'm looking at my notes here. So for me, that looked like I needed to have permission to start healing. And I went to a talk therapist, which would be like a licensed marriage and family counselor who came highly recommended by several friends. And she and I clicked right away. And I was I was able to begin the process of healing, which was actually that first resource I needed was my relationship with her, and to know that what I was actually doing was overriding everything I needed for everybody else. I was not asking for breaks. I was taking care of everything for everybody, even though I was in chronic pain. So miraculously, my body got me to this place where it just said, no more. This is not going to work for you. And that was my first step in accessing even a thought of fitness. Then, next step, add one thing at a time, and add something that is fun. When your kids are little, what do they want to do? They want to play with you. So for me, once I decided the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add activity that isn't painful. So keep in mind, I was in chronic pain. I'm lucky enough to live in a temperate climate, so we could get into the pool year round, which took the load off of my pelvis, which is where my pain was. And my kids love the pool, so we would play in the pool together. And I would add things that were hard and fun. My daughter loved to play like she was a mermaid. So I would pull her around on my shoulders and I would run figure eights in the shallow end of the pool. And then we would have, just all the fun things you can do in the pool. And I would push myself, which is one very important part of the fitness process, is generating different types of energy. So the energy of moving quick and fast, the energy of moving hard for a long time, and the energy of pushing against things that are heavy. So what does that look like? That looks like long sustained movement. That looks like, some people would call that cardio. That's a dirty word now, though. You didn't know that, but we all know nobody uses the word cardio anymore. It's a dirty word. Shh, don't say it. The other thing I said would look like, the hard and fast would look like sprints. So moving quick, as hard as you can go. And then the moving heavy things around would be kind of like weightlifting. So you want to make it fun. So just to review, because I'm a rambler, I'm a rambling woman. That's not a song. I just made it up right now. Number 1, are you sleeping? Do you have enough rest? 1B, do you have the resources to even start thinking this process? Number 3, know what you are adding and why. So the what and the why are kind of tied together. And then you're going to pick one thing at a time to add. So that playing with my children was my one thing. Another way that I added the play with my children was, this was the playground phase for us, and my kids also loved to go to the playground. So I would add very high active playground play with them, like push the swing and do squats, creative things, fun things. Another thing my daughter really loved to do was she loved to pretend like she was a dog, and she would play fetch. So we would get really down low on the ground together, and I would get in a crawling pattern, and I would crawl with my knees off the ground. It's like mimicking kind of a push-up position. And that's a pretty hard thing to do. So allow yourself to do fun things and push yourself. Push yourself, don't hurt yourself. So that kind of hits on movement how you're thinking about fitness. Then we talked about movement. The other primary fitness tool is, what are you eating? How are you eating? And when you have young kids, or you have another kind of lifestyle that's counter indicated from spending all of your days meal prepping and meal planning and purchasing, high octane superfoods from around the world and being sure you get your monthly order and blah, 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 blah. We have to be kind to ourselves. And we have to look at the big picture when it comes to food. We tend to hyper-analyze every single thing that goes into our mouth. We're like, oh my God, I ate 5 chocolate chips for lunch. Okay, well, there's probably a really good reason you ate 5 chocolate chips for lunch, because you were having a great time making cookies with your kids. Then it was nap time. And instead of making yourself a well-proportioned, thought out, perfectly macro calculated meal, you cleaned up the kitchen. And while you were cleaning up the kitchen from making chocolate chip cookies, you popped some chocolate chips into your mouth, and then you crashed because you were also tired, which brings me back to number 1. Are you sleeping enough? Great. Rest. And then know that you have another opportunity to eat coming up very soon. So that's first when we're talking about eating. Actually, first is how is eating going to be fun? How are we going to incorporate? Because remember, when you have little ones, we're teaching them what it means to be human. So moving is this fun play thing that we get to do with people we love. That's teaching them a lot about what it means to be a human mover. We get to do hard things that are fun, and it's exciting, and we get this feeling generated in our body. What a great way to start little humans on a lifetime of loving being in their body. Then, how can we bring that into food? Food is so many different things. Food is part of community. Food is part of celebration. Food is a part of how we interact with our culture. So think about how food already fits into your life, and think about the big picture. So instead of hyper organizing on those little things that you do wrong, understand that you've got a whole day to eat. So you've got a whole day to think about nutrients and getting the nutrition you need. So if something happens over here at lunchtime, our body is pretty smart, and it can carry you through to, another mealtime. That's big picture thinking when it comes to food. And then also sometimes I have people think about the big picture in terms of an entire week. You know, those big Sunday meals that families would have? And anybody you talk to, probably anybody, lots of people I talk to, I shouldn't say anybody, but a big meat meal, which would be a primary source of protein for a lot of people, would happen on Sunday. So you're going a whole week eating plant-based, probably eating whole grains, probably eating things like beans, smaller nutrient-dense meals, meaning the meals at that time were probably more focused in sort of one macronutrient zone. And then we And this is like a function of how we're going to feed a big family. And then Sunday we have this nice big pot roast, protein rich, and all the other vitamins and micronutrients that come with animal proteins. That's more on the big picture. Ooh, I'm really going on. It's been 15 minutes. Last thing about food that I want to talk about. Oh man, I could talk so much more about food, but because I'm answering this quick question specifically for how the hell do you prioritize fitness, especially if I have young kids, get the kids involved. What can we be cooking and eating together? I'm not going to lie. I never perfected this. And it's, that just goes back to be kind to yourself, because there is no perfect. And that's why I want you to look at the big picture. Good. Anybody watching? Wouldn't it be great if I could get questions while I was here? That would be really fun if I could give you guys the opportunity to ask questions. I hope that helped. And that is my second edition of Hey, Coach Maggie, answering questions. Thank you guys. Bye. How do I stop the YouTube Live? YouTube Live. And there we go.